today. So congratulations, everybody. But the fight is just beginning. Let's keep pushing for reading all across the city. Thanks so much. I appreciate
it. Now, the moment you all have been waiting for. The moment you all have been waiting for. Here are our results. Together, we read 1,476,215.
Without literacy and strong reading skills, our students, their families, they struggle. And when we have strong readers, they become leaders, and we are able to see our city rise with improvements in literacy. So CTU has been one of the main partners for the Cleveland Reads event, in addition to the Cleveland Public Library, the City of Cleveland, and of course the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. AFT has supported this initiative by working with us to donate books, and so far for just this year, AFT donated about 70,000 books that we've distributed.
So what you see here today is just a bundle of joy, but underlying it is an amazing purpose, which is about reading and literacy and inculcating the joy of reading and literacy for young people and their families in Cleveland. And with that, with the confidence of reading, first joy of reading and then confidence of reading, what you see is opportunity.
So we just launched our core measures, our 5-year core measures, of which we're both looking at the achievement of our scholars, and we're looking for proficiency in ELA at both the elementary levels and the high school levels. And then also we're measuring growth of our schools in both ELA and math. And so, of course, that's measured not only on how students are reading, the fluency, comprehension, but also how our students are critically thinking. So if you can't read, or if you're struggling with reading at the most fundamental levels, we're going to have struggles in all of the other measures we're looking at. And so it is so fundamental that we continue to read, we continue to have partnerships like this that will allow our schools and our district to grow.
Cleveland Reads, baby. How's it feel to be back-to-back state champs? I wanted to make sure we had a special celebration here at City Hall after you guys did your amazing job last Saturday. Let's show some love for Ted Gidd. I'm a little biased. I think he's the best high school football coach in the country, by the way.
You're the class that actually brought Coach Ken, as well as the coaches, to his double-digit victory of state championships. He has 8 track, and now that you got the back-to-back, you have a total of 10 state championships.
Well, I figured that we were going to win like that because we have a very good offense. We have our starting running back, Deshaunte Jones, our senior wide receiver, Demarion Whitten. Those 2 guys are a 1-2 punch. And then our defense, we're a very strong defense.
Last year, I gave Coach Gidd my first ever key to the city, first kickball championship. Now, this is a proclamation on behalf of the entire city of Cleveland, honoring the Cleveland Tar-Brothers for leading an heroic task of becoming the first ever football team in our great city to win back-to-back state championships. Congratulations. But I'm just so proud of each of you. To be back-to-back state champions is an accomplishment.
I'm standing here as the vision for back-to-back state champions. I think we deserve a round of applause. is for this city, district, school district. And we're going to continue to fight to prove that we're the greatest.
They worked hard, and it's not just that they were champions, it is the way that they have worked hard to get to this point. So I'm so proud. We're back-to-back state champions. Really proud of them.
Welcome to Lake Center. I'm happy to be here. I'm parked up right here waiting on you. Okay, let's go. Grace. All right, driver. Good morning, Grace. How's it going?
It's going. We're running late, but we don't do this.
Yeah, so let's get it.
So, Grace, how long have you been a bus driver for with us?
I started originally in 1999.
1999.
And I got laid off in 2004 with the big layoff.
Okay.
And I came back in 2019. Because as you see, we're up and out early, no matter what the weather.
That's right. Postman, and yeah, we appreciate that. Like, yeah, our scholars couldn't get to school without you. So from your perspective, tell me, what are we getting right with transportation, and then what are we getting wrong?
How about we start with the wrong?
Okay, yep, I'm here for it, and you can be honest.
We need monitors on these buses to assist us with these children.
Okay.
We're in a different age and a different time, and the children are different. We need help. We wear a lot of hats as bus drivers.
Yeah.
We're more than just bus drivers. And we can't see everything that goes on these buses.
Yeah.
And we need help. We need help. The cameras are fine, but another actual body there to assist would make things a lot better. The thing is, if a children's back there eating a supper and I go over a bump and it gets lodged in the door, how am I going to know that?
Yeah, you're right.
Where am I supposed to pull over and save this child?
Yep.
You know, which also comes into play for people having CPR training as well.
Yep.
But how can you expect a driver to do that?
Oh yeah, what else?
I like the fact that edgy law, where the parents can track the buses.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing.
Good morning, Majesty. Do you know who I am? You're like, no. I'm Dr. Morgan. I'm your superintendent, your CEO. From your perspective, what do you like about the bus? And then tell me, what are some things that can change?
How about the bus? You just sit and enjoy the ride.
So you love to just sit and enjoy the ride. Yeah. What do you not like? Oh, sometimes that happens, yeah. Is it because sometimes students are not acting right? No, that's right.
And that's another issue. I think we should know what the specifics are about a student.
Yeah.
We need to know this because we're driving them. I need to know who's behind me.
Exactly.
And they don't always give us that information.
You guys have access to the IEP?
No, we should.
We started doing, in Indianapolis, we had started doing that, giving some of our bus drivers access to the IEP because some students got escalated by, like, sometimes noise.
People around.
Or if you say something firm to them. And if a bus driver, if you don't know that.
This business meeting of the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District will now come to order. Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Here.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Here.
Mr. Briggs?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mrs. LeBron?
Here.
Dr. Sridhar?
Here.
Mrs. Welchow?
Here.
Did I miss Mrs.? Yes, Mrs. Link, sorry. There are 8 members present.
Thank you. I'd ask everyone who wishes to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. For chairing last week's meeting. In my absence, I was ill, but I had a lot of fun watching on the live stream. Great work. And since I was not here last week to formally welcome Ms. Lebron, I'd like to just thank you for joining us and say welcome to the board. The chair will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the work session of December 5th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. All right, it's great to be here at the Cleveland School of the Arts, the alma mater of our esteemed Vice Chair, Ms. Hudnall. We do not play favorites when it comes to schools, but just wanted to note that. We have an esteemed alumnus here. And next, I'd like to invite Mr. Ricardo Franklin, Principal of Cleveland School of the Arts, to join us. Is he here? Never mind, we will not do that. All right, well, next then I will introduce our CEO to present this evening's CEO report.
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. So excited to bring a couple of updates this evening. So as always, we do our school spotlight, which we'll do that. We're going to do our school spotlight first, but then also excited to just share a brief update with our board on where we are as a system. You know, some of the highlights we have in terms of some of our academic progress, but also some of the work we still have to do. And there's a lot of area based on our data that shows some areas of improvement. I also want to take the time to acknowledge 3 of our scholars that I know recently received full ride scholarships. We'll have to formally bring them to the board meeting to congratulate them, but we had a young scholar, Chardon Black, who received a full ride to Princeton University. Another scholar, Alexia Zelada, who received a full ride to University of Pennsylvania, another Ivy League. And then we have another scholar from Ginn Academy, Ramira Eskew, who received a full ride to right here at Case Western, who will be a Provost Scholar. So we'll have to bring all 3 of those scholars to one of our board meetings. We are so proud of each of them. There's a lot of work we have to do in CMSD, but knowing the work that they have done and what they've overcome just makes me proud to lead this system and all the work that the community does to work around them. I know that they've had a lot of work from some of our partners, nonprofits that do work with them, and then also each of their teachers that work to get them here. So really excited about that. And we have an article about that on our website. At this time, I'm excited to bring Michelle Perez, who is the principal of Cleveland School of Science and Medicine, one of our John Hay campus schools, to give this week's school spotlight.
Thank you, CEO Morgan, and thank you to the board for CMSD board for the opportunity to speak with you this evening and to celebrate the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. So I'm going to start with just a brief overview of the agenda. So I have some slides around who we are as a school, some data slides, a little bit about our AAP focus, our partners in education, some bright spots, things that are going on at the school that are exciting, as well as some school-specific focus and celebrations. I want to start this evening. This is our CSSM vision, mission, and values, but I want to, you can obviously read through them, but I want to talk a little bit about the history of the school, because I think it's one of the things that some folks maybe don't know about and is probably one of the most important factors about the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. So the school opened in 2006. It really was an initiative that was born from a need that was seen in the community around better preparing students for the many opportunities that we have in Northeastern Ohio in the fields of medicine and science, particularly medicine. So a group of individuals, both public and private, Frank Sullivan of RPM, Ron Richard, who is then heading the Cleveland Foundation, several doctors from local hospitals, representatives from CASE, as well as CASE Medical School, the Cleveland Teachers Union, CMSD, several other community folks came together, and they said, you know, we really want to create a school that can prepare students for the rigor of becoming something like a doctor, that kind of ambitious goal. And so that is how the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine was born. The board hired the first principal of that school, and I am that principal's predecessor. Mr. Weber was the first principal, so I'm very honored to be a part of this school. It truly is a special place. And I just want to share some of the things that the board does. So we meet quarterly as a full board. We have 4 committees that also meet quarterly, and we try to really support both the school, the faculty, the students with innovation, ideas, financial support, all kinds of things. And in 2019, the Board of Trustees, along with the faculty of the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine, went through a strategic planning process where we actually rewrote all of our vision statements, our mission statements, and our values so that they really match what it is that we're trying to do at the school. So you can see some of the things that we pride ourselves on include providing an intellectually demanding school culture, innovative teaching, exposure to medical infrastructure, experiences with medical professionals in the area, experiential learning, providing pathways. This is an area that we've really worked very hard on in the last few years, as well as creating an inclusive and respectful and supportive environment. To that end, I want to just share a little story. So in 2011, a young lady, a CMSD student by the name of Nichelle Ruffin, graduated from the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. In 2020, she became the first African-American student from CMSD to graduate from Case Medical School in 30 years. She then went on to do her residency at the University of Pennsylvania. In 2022, she became the first female chief resident of family medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, and she's now serving on the faculty there. So that is only a success story. We have many, many more. We have 3 doctors who have since graduated from Case Medical, and we have 7 more CSSM students who are in the pipeline to become doctors. Yes, through a fully funded scholarship. It's called the Jen C. Edwards Scholarship. It is not just open to students in Cleveland School of Science and Medicine, it's open to all students. However, we have been the recipient of all but one of those scholarships over the last 11 years. And what happens is those students are able to go to Case Western Reserve undergrad, fully funded. They bypass the MCAT, and they are then fully funded in medical school. So, within the next 5 years, we'll have a dozen or so doctors that, graduated from the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. We're very, very proud of that. And we work very hard to, keep that school culture intact. It is not the school maybe for everybody because it is rigorous, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we move forward. So in terms of who we are, I think I shared just a little bit about that just now. Our enrollment usually hovers around 400. Even before COVID, through COVID, after COVID, we generally start with around 400 students. We are now at 393. We do lose some students. It is a rigorous program. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But it's not the school necessarily for every single young person. And so sometimes we do have students who arrive and decide that it's not a perfect match, in which case we do try to help them find a better fit school. Some of the things about our demographics that I think are somewhat interesting is that we have a lot of female students. We are a school primarily based on interest in science and math, but we attract a lot of young ladies, and so we have 72.5% of our student body is female. We also are primarily an African-American school with almost 80% of our student body being African-American, and then the other representatives, categories represented as well, but in much smaller numbers. Okay, so in terms of data, I'm going to share a few things. This is all OST state report card type data. The first one that I'll share is comparison data. I didn't mention at the very beginning that we are a selective criteria school. That's really important when I start talking about data. Having been a teacher in CMSD for 15 years before I became a principal, I think it's important to acknowledge that the John Hay schools, including our school, that we have some advantages, right? So students do apply. We're selective about that. That needs to be transparent. And so, what you see in the data is reflective of the students that come to us, but I'll also share some of the things that I think we're doing that are pretty special, regardless of the fact that we have some very, very talented young people. So you'll see that when it comes to OST, we are exceeding both district and state standards in every OST area, and significantly doing so. So that's great, but that just has to do with achievement, and it's a lot of what students bring to us, right? They're bringing that to us, and we're just trying to grow it and nurture it and feed it. The next slide has to do with achievement. So along the same lines, we have some very, very high-achieving young people. That middle column there, slightly to the left of American U.S. history, is where we would really love to see all of our OST data going, where the vast majority of students would be scoring in the advanced category, which is black, and very, very few students scoring in the limited category, which is the purplish blue there at the bottom. We don't have that in all of our OST areas, so that is something that we're continuously working toward and trying to improve, so that we're really challenging students who have that ability to get to that advanced level, as well as making sure that we're supporting the young people who don't have as strong as skills. I think the most important slide for the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine, though, is this trend data, which represents where we were right after COVID and where we are now. The data point that I would be most proud of for just both our students and particularly our faculty is the Algebra 1 data. That's the light blue line that's to the right. You can see that during COVID or post-COVID, we really did take a deep dive in our math scores, as many I think is reflected across the country. Students did not do very well learning math online, but we have really begun to rebound in that area. And so you can see where that data is coming back up. We have gone from a 30% at our lowest, 33%, I believe, proficiency rate, back up to a 64.1. It's not where we would like to be, but we're pretty proud of that increase and the fact that we're bouncing back in those areas. Same thing with American history and U.S. government. Rebounding, although they never really dipped very much. And we would like to see those trends increasing in biology, which is the orange line, as well as ELA2. So although their scores are high, we don't see, a rebound like we would like yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it. The next slide, not related to academic data, but to school culture. These are our fall preliminary 2023 Conditions for Learning survey results. So this is the survey students just took. And we scored a 93 in safe and respectful culture, which we're proud of, but could obviously be improved. In the challenge category, which you might expect, 100% of our students say that they are being academically challenged at the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. Again, that is maybe a number that you would expect to see given the type of school that we have. Adult support, 90. And then I put this area in red because it's obviously a concern. Only 45% of our students indicating that they feel that the social and emotional learning is happening in the way it should. I would say that this is maybe a little bit misleading unless you really understand the Conditions for Learning survey. So these questions are generally about how students feel about one another. Not necessarily an SEL curriculum or things that the school is doing, but do they trust their peers? Do they feel safe? Do they think other students are cheating? These kinds of things. So we have a lot of work to do there, and it's a tough one to get at. But some of the things that we are implementing include advisory, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. We have a strong Now and Wave program. And then we have a group of students who just started on their own, unsolicited, a SAD chapter, 2 10th grade young ladies. And so this stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions. And so we're hoping that the presence of SAD will maybe help us grow these numbers a little bit and help students also make better decisions. This is a very text-dense slide, so I'm going to just slide past it to the highlights. So these are some of our AAP goals and equity and access strategies, but you'll see that they're called out more specifically in the next slide or two. So obviously, when it comes to AAP, instruction is always at the forefront. Our school was created before there were really school models the way you might think of in the portfolio network. However, if I had to say that our school had a model, it would be that we are an AP for all school. So we offer 13 different AP courses. This rivals large-scale suburban high schools, and we're very proud of that. We also just this year, thanks to the district funding, we're able to add pre-AP in all of our subject areas as well. It's an all honors or AP program. So if you're at CSSM, you're taking either an honors course or an AP course, unless it's perhaps an elective. We do have to offer math and ELA intervention courses, just like many other high schools. Our students are not arriving necessarily where we need them to be, especially if we want to get them to advanced math, calculus, if we want to get them to AP physics, et cetera. We do offer intervention, and we're using IXL as our blended learning approach, and we do attribute some of that rebound that we saw in math to the use of IXL. We think it's been helpful. We also elected in our AAP this year to become a demonstrations of learning school. So we did our first round of demonstrations of learning in October. We'll be doing another one in January. And then we have an ongoing focus on rigor and relevance. In terms of equity and access, all of our staff is participating in the CMSD Equity and Me trainings this year, which have been very powerful, helping us to understand the history and the racism involved in the housing market in Cleveland, and all kinds of really fascinating, very specific factual information about why injustice exists in the city of Cleveland. So that's been powerful. For students, we have an advisory program. It's quite unique. I'll share some details about that in a moment. We offer daily study tables. Our AP for All philosophy, I just want to touch on, because what that means is that we're not turning any student away from an AP course. If they want to struggle and if they want to strive, they're going to be able to go into that course. This does get a pushback sometimes from teachers, but again and again, we've come back to this idea that what matters most is not the grade or the AP test score, it's getting students exposed to the rigor that they're going to see in college, and so we've been sticking to that. We have a Principles of Biomedical Science program. That's our CTE program. We're proud to be partnering with the Cleveland Clinic around a virtual anatomy and physiology program within that sequence. We also have access to College Credit Plus within our school. So we have 3 teachers who are CCP certified with Kenyon College, and so they offer in-house CCP credit to students. And we have a pretty well built out pathway program that was part of the board strategic planning process. Again, I'll talk about that in just a moment. In terms of engagement and PBIS, this is you'll see our school-wide norms. You probably can't read them. I realize it's pretty small print, but essentially we came together as a student body several years ago, students, staff, myself, our administrative team, and we worked together to come up with a list of things that we thought reflected what it meant to be a student at the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. So there are a number of bullet points under the categories of personal accountability, academic integrity, professionalism, safe and respectful community. And these are all things that teachers and students came up with on their own. And we probably could use an update. It's been a few years. So the students who are there now did not create this, but students did help create it. We offer quarterly incentive trips to try to reward and also incentivize students to do well. It's a rigorous program, so we want to celebrate them when they achieve the goals that we would like them to achieve and that they have for themselves. Our pathway program it consists of 4 different pathways related to science and medicine, biomedical engineering and AI, public health and policy, professional medicine, and scientific research. So we are continuously trying to expose students to field trips and opportunities in those areas so that they can make better decisions about what aspect of science and medicine they'd like to major in when they get to college, so they're not wasting money or time. And then we have a lot of really strong rituals and traditions, some of which were there before I got there. So the white coat ceremony that happens for 9th graders each year, where they receive a white coat with their name on it. Our board funds that. We just added last year a pledging ceremony where students in the 10th grade and up can choose one of the pathways I just mentioned and publicly say that they're part of that particular pathway. And then we have pinning ceremonies where, because they have the white coats, we offer lapel pins for various things, and it becomes something that students really appreciate. We have a lot of partners in education. Most of these partners were part of our school before I got there, so I'm very, very grateful that we have this rich partnership. RPM continues to be a strong supporter and funder of our school helps us with our annual benefit every year. Minds Matter is an incredible program that I couldn't say enough about and that many of our students take advantage of, which allows them access to all kinds of college-going opportunities, including traveling around the country during the summer to visit all kinds of different amazing schools. The Joan C. Edwards Charitable Foundation is the foundation that partners with Case Western Reserve to provide the Joan C. Edwards Scholarship that I talked about earlier. All of the local hospitals, we recently partnered with the Cleveland Surgical Society so that some of our students who are interested in surgery are exposed to doctors who are actually practicing surgeons. I couldn't say enough about the partners in our school, and I'm very grateful to be part of a school that has such a rich history of community partnerships. In terms of bright spots, I've talked to think about a lot of them. We have a 5-star rating on the state report card, which we're very proud of. However, I think, above achievement, progress is the most important one. So, we have talented kids that are coming to us, but we are growing them, and therefore we have the 5 stars in the area of progress. So we want to continuously be able to grow every student in our school, regardless of their ability level when they get to us. Particularly excited about this new partnership. So last year, we went through the application process to become a Moorhead-Cain nominating school, and we were selected. So we're the only public school in the Cleveland area that is a Moorhead-Cain nominating school. St. Ignatius is also one, but those are the only two, and we're very proud of that. So we have a young man who just progressed into the semifinalist round for the Moorhead-Cain Scholarship. I don't have time to tell you all about this amazing opportunity, but it is a really incredible opportunity, and it is a little bit different than other scholarship opportunities. We don't know if he'll get it, but we're proud to be able to nominate now 2 students every year for this particular scholarship. And then the Pathway program is something that I'm very, very proud of. Teachers lead this. So we have a teacher who leads biomed and AI, a teacher who leads public health and policy, a teacher who leads professional medicine, and a teacher who leads scientific research. That's extra work and extra time. And I'm very appreciative to our faculty who, is always on board to do what needs to be done and then more. Very grateful to them. Celebrations, we have lots of them. So we have at each one of our Friday meetings, the last slide that we look at is a slide that says, how will you leave the world better than you found it? This is really important to me, and I try to convey this as often as I can to students, whether that's leaving a particular space and picking up your things as you go, or if it means literally changing the world with new technology or a new idea or a leadership, whatever it might be. So we try to, we try to create leaders. This is, distributed leadership is incredibly important to me, and it doesn't have to just live with faculty, it can live with students. So if you've ever encountered a Cleveland School of Science and Medicine student, you may find them to be somewhat outspoken, you may find them to have questions, you may find them to be particularly curious, and this is because we want to cultivate that type of scholar. We don't want them to be afraid. We want them to go out there and do great things. So we do lots of different charitable things within our school. We did a Thanksgiving basket assembly. Students helped, and we gave away baskets to families in our school who needed them. We have a senior spotlight wall that just went up because our senior pictures were in. There's a little pennant under each one of those. That's the middle picture. And they will now start putting the stickers as they get acceptances from various colleges. We strive for 100% college acceptance, and we get there. We do not always get all of our kids over the summer to get to where they want to go, and that is something that we would like to continue to work on and figure out new tools, perhaps with the district, for how we can track that better and how we can stop that summer melt that can sometimes happen. But the two of the students that CEO Morgan was talking about are seated right there on our couch, Alexia Zalata and Chardon Black, who have been accepted to Ivy League schools. Thanks to the Questbridge project, process and opportunity. They're both Questbridge scholars, so that means, yeah, fully funded. We have another one, Isaiah Moore, who is funded at University of Chicago as well. And then our Friday meeting, the last little picture you see there is where the young ladies just the other day came up in front of all of the students and said, hey, we created this chapter of SAD. We want students to make better decisions. So this is a once-a-month opportunity for the whole student body to come together on a Friday in the auditorium and go over large-scale things that are necessary for us to talk about as a school, as well as for students to present if they'd like to present. We bring in guest speakers, all kinds of things. So that's part of our advisory structure. One Friday a month, they meet with their cohort, so with their 9th grade team or 10th grade team or 11th or 12th. And then 2 Fridays a month, we have something called Flex Advisory, where they go to a smaller location. I have my own advisory as well, and this is an opportunity for study hall. It's an opportunity for surveys and any SEL activities. Whatever needs to be done, we do. We did do restorative justice training in the beginning of the year, and so we have all been trained in circles. We're trying to do that at the start of every one of our flex advisories. Some people more successfully than others, because that's tough. It requires, the teacher to put themselves in a slightly vulnerable place, but I think we're doing pretty good with it. Again, just more focus and celebrations, getting kids out on lots of AI opportunities this year, thanks to Chelsea Cook-Cohen. And we have a full complement of sports because we are part of the John Hay campus, and there are 3 schools. We offer almost every sport, not all of them, and we have a great athletic director who hosts a athletic banquet each season. And then we just had a teacher who was nominated for a Heart Award. It's our first Heart Award, so I'm very proud of him, Mr. Krupa, English 2 teacher, who gave up a planning period this year because he wanted to work unpaid, he just wanted to work with this young man, specifically because he's not a native English speaker, and he wanted to make sure he got through the OST. So that young man just took his OST yesterday and today, so we're just waiting to see the results of that. So those are a few things to share with you about the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. It's a special place. I'm sure every single person, every principal in the district feels that their school is very special, and I certainly feel that way about mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we just keep you for a few minutes? Are there any questions from the board, or Dr. Morgan, do you have questions? Do you want to start? Okay.
Thank you. Well, congratulations on all of your news. Especially glad to hear about the doctors and soon-to-be doctors. I do have a question, and it's probably for your school, but probably for the whole district. Can you remind me with math, do they start with geometry now, or is it Algebra 1? What's freshman year?
So it's so interesting that you're asking that question. So we are doing things a little bit differently in our school. So a couple of things that are specific to science and medicine. So one is that we do often have students coming to us who have already taken Algebra 1 in the 8th grade.
Okay.
However, unless they have scored a 4 or a 5 on the OST, unless we have an internal test as well.
Yeah.
Unless they have done those things, we ask them to retake Algebra 1 with us, because we have too often found that students who took Algebra 1 in the 8th grade and passed, but didn't do so well on the OST, then didn't fare very well in their upper level math courses. And so we really try to build skills early, so that students can achieve higher level math moving forward. So at Science and Medicine, we offer Algebra 1, and then Algebra 2, and then geometry, and then upper level math. There is an option for students in their sophomore year to take both geometry and Algebra 2 concurrently, and we have some students who successfully do that. I'm saying that knowing that perhaps the math director is not wanting me to say that, because that's not the sequence that is generally recommended, but we've found success with it. And what our math department would say is that it's not hurting our test scores to do it that way. It's actually improving them. So we'll see. We may have to make some adjustments, and if necessary, we can go back to but the traditional sequence is generally Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, to sort of get at your question. But we have moved things around, mostly in an effort to make sure that when our kids get to AP Calc and to AP Stats, they're really prepared and they have those basic building blocks.
Great.
So.
Well, and I think those are all good ideas, and my question really stems probably more back for Dr. Morgan, is I've always been concerned about the middle school years,
Yep.
and especially in math, and it's showing up here because these are the kids that have tested into your school and still are, doing okay, but not great compared to, like, say, history, so.
Yes, I share the same concern. So I have 2 kids of my own, and I noticed, strangely, that they had always seemed to be busy, had a lot of homework in their elementary years, and then all of a sudden, when they got to middle school, they had a ton of time. I'm like, what's going on? This is not CMSD. They go to school in another district. So yeah, I think there's something to be said for upping some of the rigor and the homework and the practice at the middle school level so that when they come, they are prepared and we don't have to, yeah.
Thank you. And I also applaud your AP for all. Great,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Thank you.
Dr. Streeter?
I hope I just didn't pay attention and miss what you said. But you mentioned 100% of your students get accepted to college, and you talked about MELT. Can you say a little more about what percentage of students actually do enroll, what percentage of students, or how many students, even in absolute numbers, don't, and what kinds of things are you working on to build a culture during 12th grade? I mean, it's not a summer thing, you know that, right? I mean, what kind of things are we talking about in the 12th grade?
So to be totally transparent and honest, we do not have an infrastructure for tracking. So that clearinghouse information is not readily available to us. It's my understanding that you have to pay for it, and some people do have it, but we don't have it. So we would like to fix that. We would like to know better. But then the other reality too is just that we don't have the personnel to track that type of information. So it takes literally every person that we have on our staff. We actually created an additional, so we have one guidance counselor. We actually created an additional position that we call a student transition coordinator because we found that because we have so many college-going students, it is a lot for one guidance counselor, 400 students, to, even though that's sort of like the national, I think, ratio, it's a lot for her to manage. And so we have a position where one of our staff members, Melinda Franco, she works in recruitment and admissions, but she also has a background in, she worked for College Now for a number of years, and she has a background in scholarship attainment and applying to college, FAFSA, et cetera. And so that is like a two-part position. So she helps with admissions, but she also helps with college placement. And she really, like the kids who earn the scholarship, she works very closely with them. She has a lot of expertise and experience, but we found that we needed that extra support. Not that our counselor wasn't doing an amazing job, because she is, but it is a lot of work. And so I guess what I would say is that in order to do that work of figuring out which kids are not, we need another person, or, or we would need a stipend, we would need some other support. We would love to do that work. It's actually something that gets asked a lot. So at our board meetings, that's something that our board would also like to know. But we're just working every day to do, to do the things that we need to do. And so that would be aspirational for us and would also somewhat be based on resources.
Thank you for the presentation, and also thank you for acknowledging Isaiah. Isaiah is the third student that was in the article for University of Chicago, and Isaiah, Alexia, and Chardon, I know, are all of your scholars, so congratulations on that. A question I had, so I love the AP for all as well. What is your AP success rate in terms of the passage rate?
Yeah, so it varies by subject. I can't tell you right offhand. I can tell you that we have some of the highest scores. So our AP psychology teacher, Mr. Truppel, has one of the highest passing rates in the district. We have every year between 10 and 12 students who score 5s. I would have to have the data in front of me to be able to tell you because each one of the subject areas is different. Yeah. I can tell you where there are strengths and weaknesses. So physics has been an ongoing weakness for us to the point where we are not offering AP Physics this year because it has been such a struggle. Yeah. AP Chemistry is another one. Yeah. So, we get much better success in, AP US History, in AP Lang, AP Lit. The science courses are hard, the math courses are hard. But again, we don't spend, and I can forward you, some of our historical data. I can send that to you so that you have it. But we really try not to focus too much, other than celebrating students and teachers when they do well and they pass. We really do try to focus more on stay in the course. Like, it's okay. Like, this material is hard, and you are going to struggle, and it's okay to struggle, and we want you to struggle now so that you're not struggling your freshman year in college when your scholarship is on the line. So, but I can send you some of our historical data.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Do you offer any dual enrollment?
So like where they're taking an AP course as well as a CCP course?
Yeah, because the rigor of AP is there. I just know across the board, and it's not just with CMSD students, what we're finding is students struggle on the test to actually get the college credit. And so there's been a lot of high schools moving to dual enrollment because students actually could get the college credit. So didn't know if that was a model.
taking like a CCP course instead of
Yeah,
AP.
or in addition to, I just didn't know if that was a model you guys had looked into.
Yeah, so we are pretty dug into the AP, but we do have the 3 teachers who are certified to offer CCP through Kenyon College. So we have American history, African American history, and I'm missing one. Language, 4th year of language, or English, sorry, English 4. Those we offer, so our teachers have done summer training at Kenyon, and they all have the CCP credentials, so those we offer in-house. And then we do have students who go out and take advantage of CCP classes at Tri-C. That number is growing as parents are seeing the financial advantage to that, but we have always been an AP sort of school, and so we often do try to encourage our kids to stay with us because we believe that we're really preparing them. But it's a tricky one. Yeah, there are some definite advantages to families around CCP. Yeah.
Thank you, Principal Peretz, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to give some updates just on where we are in terms of our core measures. As many of you know, at the State of the Schools about a month ago, I announced to our district, based on feedback that we've heard from the community, a set of our core values, strategic priorities that we will use moving forward, and then also a set of 5-year targets and measures we will hold ourselves accountable to. Tonight is our first iteration of many iterations of me and our team coming back to share where we are based on some of our 5-year targets. We're still in the process of building out some of the measures we will use to measure this data, and also this is our first time doing this. So many of the things you'll see tonight is just a baseline for where we are, of which we need to build strategies. And actually, I think Principal Perez's presentation was a good segue to think about some of the things that we have to look at system-wide and to measure. So without further ado, I'll just dive in, talked a little bit about the work we're doing here. First, I want to talk a little bit about the cadence of these presentations. I'll do the presentations 3 times in an academic year, once in general around November and December, which I'm coming during this time. We'll come back in February or March or in the springtime, and then we'll come at the end of the year just to let us know where we are. As I mentioned, we're still building out a lot of the goals that will be embedded under many of our core measures. So these are the core measures that were announced at the State of the Schools. Some of them are actually have quantitative goals attached to them. These are 5-year targets. They are ambitious. So if you actually see where the district is now, some of these things we are not currently tracking. So for instance, the first college and career measure on 90% of our scholars enrolled in college employed or enlisted. We're not all of these things are we currently tracking, and as you even heard from Principal Perez, even have the infrastructure for in some cases. So as we look forward on measuring this, we're going to share today some information we have currently on this, but we need to really build this out and build up the infrastructure to really make sure we're measuring this. The same thing with our graduation rates. We measure our graduation rates, but we do not have a system-wide way of measuring freshmen, sophomore on track, which are leading indicators that help us push towards this. So this is just some of the example of where we're going for our 5-year goals, but we still need to build out the infrastructure. For tonight's presentation, I'm focusing specifically on these measures, the college and career measure of 90% of our students enrolled, enlisted, or employed. We'll focus today on enrollment, college enrollment, some of the achievement measures based on our NWEA benchmarks that we've had recently, and then some of the equity measures to let you know some of the achievement gaps between based on race and also on some of the other demographic groups, as well as discipline data. So just a little bit about the way this presentation will be. You will see some of our historical data, so there will be some slides that I will share to show you where we recently performed either on the state report card or data that we've received from the state historically, but we will also share leading indicators. Leading indicators are pieces of data or information that we have within the year that allows us to track progress towards a summative measure. A summative measure is a goal that we'll have at the end of the year. So you'll see some of the leading indicators of in-year data that we have now that are predictions based on where we will be by the end of the year. These are some of the leading indicators you will see tonight. For our first one, college and career measures, we'll be looking at our current progress on our Say Yes applications. This is not the only way to measure college enrollment for this first goal. I just want to let you know this is not the only way in which we'll measure this. It's just some of the data that we have now, and then also where we are currently on our senior class for applying for colleges. As I mentioned before, we'll look at our NWEA proficiency based on our fall submission of the data that just came in, and then also our chronic absenteeism. We will also look at year-to-date suspensions and some of the disproportionality based on racial groups. So a little bit about our district demographics here. This is showing you our enrollment and also the breakdown of enrollment based on last school year. So the first set of columns that you'll see is based on last school year where we entered our data, what was the enrollment, and also the percentages based, broken down by race. If you look at the far two columns, the furthest columns to the right, you will see what our current enrollment and also breakdown of racial demographic enrollment currently for CMSD. We also included our SPED students, ELL students, and then also based on feedback, our gifted population. So you can see where we are in areas that we need to continue to track and look at. One of the things we're also working to get better on is pulling our data from a single source so that when we're showing you enrollment data, it can look consistent across where we're pulling it from, but this is currently for all of our CMSD schools, pre-K through 12 enrollment. So enrollment is slightly up from where we were last year. These are the populations that will be highlighted in this presentation. Not all of our demographic groups are going to be highlighted. Also noted that some of in our other category for racial groups, there are some racial groups that are not represented in the data, and we also need to make sure that we do a better job of capturing some of the racial subgroups that may not have an option for choosing their race. So first, for college enrollment, employment, or enlistment, we're focusing today on college enrollment and where we are. I talked a little bit about this and how we need to build out our infrastructure for where we are. Sorry, I'm looking at it on my slide and not forwarding it up here, sorry. I talked a little bit about how we need to build out some of our infrastructure for building out this measure, specifically for tracking students that may be enlisted, also employed in high quality pathways. This work is to come. So one of the things I want to share with you is where our current state data is on college enrollment. So this is based on the state, the way they reported our data for the past 4 years. What you see on this slide, because it can be confusing, at the top is our 5-year goal of 90%. So you can see where we are versus where we want to go. The other thing I want to note here is the state data is lagging by 2 years behind in terms of the cohort. So last year's data that we received in 2023 was actually for the class of 2021. So it's 2 years behind. So what you see for that 39% that was reported on a state report card for 2023 was for the class that graduated 2 years ago. And so this is what is currently the state is measuring. And for the last 2 years, we've been hovering around 39% enrollment. This is not persistence. This is just based on students that enroll initially in college. This is our data for our current Say Yes applications for seniors. So we are up for our Say Yes applications. If you look at the chart to your left, you will see the Say Yes applications 2 years ago, we were at 52% in December. Last year at this time, we were down slightly to 26%. We're back up to that 52%. But even though we're back up to where we were 2 years ago, we still have some work to do. Our college, students who have applied to college has slightly been going down, though we're essentially about the same for where we are. One of the areas that I heard from when we were actually pulling this data is that data reporting mechanisms have not been consistent. And so this is an area that we will be focusing on so that when we come back to you in the spring, we can have more information on where we are in terms of the students who have applied to college. For our next core measure around proficiency, and this will first focus on K-8 proficiency. So K-8 proficiency, our goal in 5 years is to be at 65% for ELA and math. And we're not going to talk about our growth in this presentation, but we do have a growth goal also around our proficiency and achievement. So 65%, we have some schools that are above that. We have some schools that are far below it. So when you see the average of 65%, that is ambitious for our system to move, because right now, I think in general, our average is in the 30s or slightly below in terms of proficiency. Proficiency, as it's measured by the state, is by the Ohio state test that we administer to our scholars. The way we measure it in year to know where we are and to know if we're on track is based on NWEA. That is an assessment that we give twice a year, once in the fall and once in the winter, to measure where our students are. It's a snapshot that if the state test was given on that day, where our students would be in terms of proficiency. And the NWEA is about 80% accurate in terms of our predictions. So we're going to share with you predictions based on our students taking this test in the fall. I think they tested around September. And we'll also show you where they were for the last few years on the fall admissions of the test. The other thing I want to note is participation rates, which is an area that we are working on as a system. Our K-8 numbers are much better in terms of the number of percent of students that are actually taking the test. For both elementary and high school, our participation rates are up this year than where we were last year, but we still have a lot of work to do. So if you see from this is the percentage of students that are untested. In our elementary space, we have over 90% of our students that are actually taking the NWEA. In our high school space, you can see for reading or ELA, we have almost under 70% of our students that are actually taking the test. In the math space, we have under 80% of our students that are actually taking the test. If we do not have high participation rates, it actually does not give us a good measure for predicting where we will be at the end of the year, and you will see this for our high school data, because the way the state measures untested students, it automatically defaults them to the lowest category of proficiency. So if a student is not there due to chronic absenteeism, the way we've modeled this out is we've automatically put them in the lowest category, even if that's not how they will test. So I do want to note that when we look at, start to look at our high school data, and this is already an area that we've seen as an area of opportunity for growth. So as you see from this chart here, this is where we have been over the past few years. The first three dots you'll see are, the furthest one from 2018 to 2019, that's where we were pre-pandemic. Of course, the 2019-2020 school year, we did not take the test, and this is in our K-8 space. And then you can see the past 3 school years, that is where we were on our Ohio State test, the end of year test, that's actual data. 23-24, this is our current predictions based on the NWEA fall assessment. So ELA is slightly up. We're predicting based on how students performed in this fall submission. It's slightly up, and math has leveled. But even though that's at 32% and 21% respectively for ELA and math, we're far from the 65% goal that we need to be at in 5 years. This next chart shows you the past few years in terms of where we were on the NWEA in fall and how our students tested. The red category is the lowest category, showing students that actually test limited. Then you have the next category, the orangish color, that is basic. Yellow is proficient, so that would be, meeting state standards. Then you have accomplished and advanced and moving above. As you can see, for the past couple of years for fall, last year and this year, we're relatively the same in terms of where our students fall in terms of proficiencies. And this is for ELA, and the same for math. Our lowest category for math is slightly better this year, but just by 1 percentage point. Oh, didn't move it on this one, sorry. Can you guys check? Yeah, thank you, James. All right, this is the breakdown of proficiency based on some subgroups. So we have our Black students, Hispanic students, white students, SPED students, and our ELL population. And then also you see the 5-year goal up top. This data shows consistent that there are large gaps between our white students and our students of color. Particularly, one thing we noted when we were analyzing this data is that our English language learner students are actually performing significantly lower than where they were last year based on the predictions. So the first 3 dots, as we mentioned before, that is actual state test data for these populations, and the last dot is a prediction based on fall NWEA. So that's something that our academics team, as we're looking at this, is digging in to see what supports our English language learners need. But across the board, special education students, Black students, consistently have lower test rates than our other demographic groups. And that's something for us to look at, not necessarily because of ability or what can happen there. It's really looking at the quality of instruction, the attention of care, and also the expectations that we put on our scholars to make sure we're setting that expectation across the board. You'll also see a little bit later a correlation between achievement and also attendance rates, and then also discipline data, of which also our SPED students and our African American students are significantly disproportionate to other racial demographic groups. So this is work, a call to action and work that we need to do as a system. Next is in math, you see this as well. Once again, the gaps persist, and also something going on with our ELL population as well, because it's down from where students tested last year. Next is the high school group. Noting again, this is the group that our predictions are slightly off because of our participation rates in NWEA. So as you see the first 3 dots, thinking about the 2020-2021 school year, 21-22 and 22-23, that is official OST test data, and the predictions are based on NWEA. Our predictions are slightly down, but as I mentioned before, our data team, when pulling this, our participation rates were lower, so it automatically defaulted students to the lower category. So our goal when we do the NWEA test in February is to get our high school participation rates up. This also shows the category broken down by proficiency rates. Consistent to what we saw in K-8, students are performing on par from where they performed last fall. And this is areas, these are areas that we're digging into as an academic team. This is for ELA, and this is for math. The note on this, I want to show you these last 2 slides again for ELA and math. One thing we added, look at the percentage of untested students. And so I want to let you know that deep red that you see there, that's the number of untested students. And this is not a problem that has just happened in our system. This has been a consistent problem of high school students not taking the NWEA. So the NWEA currently is our only way of measuring in year to know where our students will be on the OST at the end of the year. And if we're not having our high school students take the test, it limits our ability or even the teacher to know where a student is to actually track towards that proficiency. So I just want to note the participation rates need to improve in our high schools. This is our demographic, our racial subgroups. Also, once again, consistent with what you saw in, with elementary. The racial gaps, particularly between our white and our Black students, and then our English language learners being slightly down. This is for ELA, and this is for math, which includes the algebra and geometry on the Ohio State test. and all groups significantly far from our goal of 55% in the high school. So the goal in high school is 55%. Our next thing we're going to look at is chronic absenteeism and attendance rates. We have not set a goal yet. One of the things that we're going to be doing as a cabinet and senior leadership team is continuing on with our strategic planning process and setting what is a specific target that we'll be looking at for attendance and chronic absenteeism. But I do want to let you know where we are currently. One of the things that attendance rates tell us, it tells us how the percentage tells us how often a student has been going to school. You will note on the first slide, we will be looking at the attendance average, the attendance percent. The percent alone, even if it's higher, let's say it's in the 80s or in 90, it does not constitute whether a student is actually chronically absent or not. For instance, when we look at chronic absenteeism right now, when we pull this data, we've had roughly about 70 instructional days. Students that are chronically absent could be missing up to 7 of those days, which can still put them with an attendance average, in the upper 80s, close to 90%. And so just because a student has attendance rate percentage at the upper 80s or in the 90s, it doesn't mean that they're not chronically absent. So we will look at both of them because our goal is to make sure our attendance percentage is high, but also that chronic absenteeism goes down. This slide here shows where our students, it correlates the achievement that I showed you on a few slides ago in terms of where students are scoring, whether it's a limited, basic, proficient, accomplished, or advanced, and what their attendance rates will be. So if you see in the bar all the way to the bottom, that is if students are absent less than 5 days, in general, they perform better. Overall, we have many of our students that are scoring in the limited category, and if we want to meet our goals, we're going to need to shrink that red category. But the more students are chronically absent, it shows that they are not, they have a lower chance of actually doing better on these tests. This next slide shows our district attendance rates over time, and this is based on December. So we wanted to compare at this time of the year, on December 7th, when we pulled this data, where were students at in terms of attendance? Attendance percentage is slightly up. We still have not recovered from where we were pre-pandemic, but attendance percentages are slightly up. And I do know our attendance team, we have a new district attendance coordinator, Victoria Harris, has been doing many different strategies around incentives and interventions, and also making sure schools have the support in terms of the tiered strategies that we've actually been seeing has been helping. But do not let the 85% fool you, even though we are happy that we are up slightly from where we were last year. You will see on this next slide, we still have a lot of work in terms of chronic absenteeism. So our chronic absenteeism average as a district is at 46%. Last year around this time, it was at 57%. So chronic absenteeism is down, hence why the attendance percentage is up. But we need to decrease this significantly. And you can also see it by racial groups. One of the things we noticed when we looked at this as a cabinet, most of our racial groups are doing about the same. Once again, there's something happening with our English language learners that we're going to need to dig in and look at, whether that is the way we're reporting the data, whether it is extra supports that are going to be needed. There is something that is happening across the board to support that. Actually, in this one, for ELLs, chronic absenteeism is actually the lowest group actually for ELL. So they're actually the better group actually performing in terms of attendance, but we need to look at that for academic progress. The other thing I will note here is if you look at the 2020-2021 school year, white students is the blue line, and look at how low the chronic absenteeism, which in this case, the low number is actually a good number if your chronic absenteeism is low. This was an interesting data point when we were looking at this as a team, because 2019, 2020, 2021, those were the most significant years of the pandemic. And what this data shows, this one piece of snapshot, of course, it doesn't tell the holistic story, but if you were looking at this, it would show that the pandemic essentially did not have an impact on our white students in terms of chronic absenteeism. So not anything definitive to say there, not an absolute, but just an interesting data point for us to mull over. The next is looking at disproportionality based on discipline. Of all of the data I've shared with you now, whether it's achievement and on NWEA and our predictions, as well as attendance, there have been some bright spots in terms of growth. When I look at our discipline this year, across the board so far, all of our discipline rates are up, and that's not a good thing. So one of the things we're looking at is looking at our discipline rates by category, but there is some interesting data that we begin to parse out based on strategies that we begin to implement that shows us some signs of progress. So let's go into this. I know this has a lot of words on this slide, but in general, we're going to be looking at our out-of-school suspensions, and we're going to be looking at where our out-of-school suspensions rates are at based on some of our demographic groups that we've looked at. Disproportionality measures the rate at which we suspend certain groups over other groups. And so we'll look at this together. So on this slide here, you see the orange line is this school year. The blue line is last school year. In general, in any school year, suspensions go up as the year goes on. One, because it's a cumulative total. So this is just a cumulative total. As the year goes on, suspensions are going to go up. Right now, the orange is showing that we are above where we were last year in terms of our suspensions. And this shows you the month by month. Right now, in the school year last school year, we had about 8,500 total suspensions. And as you can see, where we're outpacing kind of right now, we're almost at the half mark of where that 8,500 is. And so we're putting some interventions in place to make sure we look at this. This next slide, though, shows you a bright spot. And when I look at this for our team, it shows that when you intervene, we can begin to look at what is happening. We don't always need to allow data to happen to us and say, wow, suspensions are up. We need to look at what's actually happening, what are some strategies we can put in place to close the gap. And so one of the things you'll see here, this shows you the month-by-month total of suspensions compared to last year. There was a spike this year in October where we were significantly higher from where we were October last year. Once again, not making a definitive statement, just looking at the data from where it is. I do know our legal team and also our SEL team has presented at the last 2 principal meetings around not only restorative practices around discipline, but also being very transparent about our data. Not only just looking at suspension rates together, looking at this by race in a moment, which we're going to look at here, and just asking ourselves, what strategies do we have in place? Are we significantly suspending black and brown students at higher rates for the same offense? And what you found here, when that intervention first took place in October, in November, we nearly closed the gap. And so it'll be interesting to see where we are in December, and we'll continue to monitor this as we have interventions in place. I know our principals just met today, and our humanware team was presenting to them as well. And here we have, you can see the disproportionality. This shows by our racial group for in-year suspensions, the percentage of students that are actually getting suspended at higher rates. The 2 groups that are getting suspended at higher rates are our black students and also our SPED population. I can imagine there's also probably some linkage to this, meaning that we probably have many SPED students who are also black students that are getting suspended. So if you were looking at those together, the rate will go up. This is the area we need to significantly look at and make sure that we have strategies to support our students, but we need to look at ourselves hard in the mirror when we are saying that a certain group of student is suspended much higher than another group of students. We as adults are, we may not do the behaviors, but we are the ones that input the data. We are the ones that give the discipline. And that just says a lot about our system when we're looking at the significant disproportionality, and then also when we look at the achievement. And so these are areas we will be looking at. And as you know, one of our core values as a system is equity and inclusion. We need to not only just say about equity, this is also equity when we look at our data by our subgroup populations. I know this was lengthy and a lot of data, but I'll turn it over to you, Chair Ellicott, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Just before we get into questions, thank you for this comprehensive report, and looking at, being realistic about our data is really important, and knowing where we're starting from right now into where we're going. Any questions from my colleagues? Dr. Streeter?
So thank you, Dr. Morgan. I want to echo the chair's comments about the work that went into putting this together. First of all, I want to acknowledge and congratulate you for actually bringing this data up. This is incredibly hard to see. When we see the progress or the lack thereof for our young people in our district, in this level of stark black and white, it is really first of all, it's really hard, but at the same time, it is good that we are looking at it carefully. I have lots of questions, which I've written down here. I'm not going to go over them today because I need a little more time to go through this, and I'm sure we will all have some time. But I have a couple of I have two questions that I want to put in front of you now, and a suggestion about presentation. The presentation suggestion is it might sound not so important, but I think it is quite critical. When we show the data, particularly demographic breakdowns, the line plots that you have are nice, but I think it's also critical to show how many students are in those individual things, right? So there's, I see Dr. D'Amico over there. I'm sure he has all kinds of whiz-bang ideas for presentation of data, but something as simple as thickness of lines can demonstrate the real impact, right? Because it's one thing to say, 46% of our white students are scoring at a certain level and 27% of our black students are, but when you multiply that by the fact that only 13% of our students are white and 67% of our students are black, the impact is actually much, much larger, and it's important to track those kinds of impacts. The second is, this isn't, again, I'm not looking for an answer today, but I'm hoping that over the next several weeks and months, we'll actually talk about this, and that has to do with connecting these different goals, right? I mean, we have a goal of getting to 55% proficiency rate in the OSD at the high school, but then at the same time, we have a 90% college enrollment goal. So how do those two things track with each other, right? I mean, if our goal is to get 55% of our students to be proficient in the OSD, what is the enabling metric, if you will, that says this is a predictor of college attendance? And similarly, the 65% goal that you have in the K through 8, how does that track and enable college enrollment, right? I mean, so those are, again, I think I'm just sort of giving initial reactions. I'm just thrilled that we as a board get to have this conversation, because this is the primary reason for why I think we should be engaged in this, which is to enable every one of our young people to be successful. And so thank you.
Normally I'd call on my colleagues first, but I have a related comment as well. So for that core measure around college going, echo what Dr. Schroeder has said around, and I know that you and I also discussed this report previously in a prior draft, but echo the idea of finding other indicators around college readiness. I know that we can look at test scores and other things that might be helpful, and I assume we also have some challenges around infrastructure for that, but that it would be important. Also, being able to disaggregate the goals around college and career will be helpful. And then I had just a clarifying question as well on when we're looking at subgroups presented. Let's look at slide 10, for example. The students with disabilities, are they also accounted for, and the ELL, the English language learners, are they also accounted for in the racial demographic numbers? They're not pulled out of that, right?
I'll invite Dr. D'Amico up to share the methodology.
Yeah, so in this slide, the categories are not mutually exclusive. So you can be one of the racial subgroups, and then you could also be in SPED, and you could also be in ELL both. So that is not mutually exclusive.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. I wanted to check. Ms. Welch-Howell?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Just to echo the thanks for the presentation today, it was very helpful to see the data broken down this way, so I appreciate that. I have a question or an ask that's a flavor of my colleagues, which is just, it'd be helpful to understand some of the benchmarks or just frameworks for the targets, so the 90%, the 65 to 55, why that was sort of the benchmark, how we chose it, any of that insight would be great.
All right, thank you. I know that this is a starting point and that we'll be talking more at upcoming junctures, and really appreciate the format as well as my colleagues' questions and Dr. Shooter's coming questions in the future that'll help us get this to be looking even stronger, and really appreciate it. Anything else for your report?
One other quick thing, just wanted to acknowledge the last member. I've been announcing these as it's been their first meeting, but the last member of the executive leadership team, this is first meeting, day 2, is J.R. Tompkinson, our new chief of staff. So we're so happy to have you. And that is all for my report.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan, and welcome, JR. All right, next we will have public participation for a period of no longer than 40 minutes. During this segment of the business meeting, we will hear all public comment on either agenda or non-agenda items. This public participation will be for persons to address the board for up to 3 minutes each. Under the board's policy, persons wishing to address the board at this meeting should have submitted a request to speak form online by 12 o'clock noon today. Reminder that the online form is available on the CMSD website at clevelandmetroschools.org/board, and it's open from the end of the monthly board work session until noon on the day of each board business meeting. Community members who struggle with internet access can also call to sign up by calling the board office at 216-838-0030, also by 12 noon the day of the business meeting. Consistent with our policy, we will no longer be accepting paper forms at our meetings. If anyone wishing to address the board has any written material they would like the board to review, please give it to our board attorney, Mr. Bertzloff, over to my left, and he will distribute it to the board. While the board welcomes the opportunity to hear from members of the community at these meetings, there is of course an expectation that persons addressing the board will show respect for our audience by conducting themselves in a courteous and professional manner as befits a public meeting in a school. And I also want to again remind everyone that in order to make sure that we hear from as many people as possible, and so that we make sure that there is equitable access to the same amount of time to comment, we do limit each speaker to 3 minutes, and we ask that all respect that limit. Further, I want to point out that we are posting on our meeting agendas the school district's responses to persons who have spoken during public participation. And today we have on our agenda, we have responses from the last 2 meetings. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with Sherry McCutcheon, followed by Elizabeth England. Sherry McCutcheon. Hello.
I didn't know we could give you copies, so I could give this to him afterwards if you want it.
Okay, no problem.
Good evening. My name is Sherry McCutcheon, and I'm a paraprofessional. I have worked for the district for almost 13 years, and I'm here to talk about para pay and our need for a living wage. I would like to start by saying I like my job a lot, and I love my students so much, but I'm tired. We have all heard the line about how paras are the highest paid paras around and how grateful we should be, but I want to break that down for you. My total compensation after 12 years is $36,505. If you divide that by the 185 days that we work, that's $197 a day. Divide that by the 7 3/4 hours that we're paid daily, it gives you a rate of $25.46. And it sounds like a lot, right? But let's do the real math. Let's take that $36,505, divide it by the 24 pays, it equals $15.21. Divide it by 2 and you get $760. Divide that by the $38.75, you get $19.62. As a paraprofessional who has worked for you since 2011, I earn $760 a week before taxes and insurance. To make extra money, I work lunch duty every day. I take no breaks. Here is a breakdown of my December 5th pay, total before taxes with 9 lunch duties. I was sick one day. $1,777.33. Mine is $272.74 for medical and SERS, $37.80 in union dues and life insurance, and $267 in taxes. That leaves me with $1,199.79, which equals $599 a week. Do you know how far $599 a week goes? Not very far. The current inflation rate is 3.2%, and my cost of living raise was a total of $304. Divided by 24 pays, that's $1,267 a paycheck. It doesn't even buy me 5 gallons of gas every 2 weeks. To make ends meet, I work 5 nights a week, driving for Uber Eats until 9 p.m. I'm losing money tonight by not working to come here to talk to you guys, and I'm very tired. Please pay us a living wage. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Should I-
Elizabeth England, followed by Rosa Cruz. Elizabeth England.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity to comment tonight. My name is Liz, and I'm the parent of 3 CMSD scholars. I am here tonight to bring attention to the situation at Garfield Elementary. This is a little emotional for me because it involves my kids. Over the past 5 years, I have been witness to the chaos at this school. Every August, I joke with my spouse about how it's the first time they've ever had school. How could they be expected to know what to do? The building oozes disorganization. It follows that the atmosphere in the school is tense and violence is frequent. I've stood in the main office as the assistant principal screamed at a child for eating Cheetos in the hall, telling him that kids like him are why they have rats in the school. I have listened as my children told me about the 4 fights they witnessed that week at Garfield. I called the office for the campus coordinator to tell me he meant to call when my kids were victims of violence during the school day. Humiliation, silent lunches, and group punishments are common at Garfield. Topping it all off, my children have been the targets of bullying by members of staff. While a disorganized building packed with students is one part of the problem, there's also a severe shortage of staff. Enrolling more and more students without ensuring the building is fully staffed is irresponsible. In October, I learned that my children were not receiving instruction in math, science, or social studies. After receiving no help from the principal about these issues, I reached out to the network leader to see what could be done to get things back on track at Garfield. I attended several meetings, I sent more than a dozen emails, I called the CEO's office again, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done to rectify the months without instruction. These students need your help. To date, the math and social studies positions are still vacant. On December 1st, Mr. Bosley merged 3 7th grade sections into 2 homerooms and demanded that the teachers take on classrooms packed with 38 to 40 students. In the case of my children's class, the teachers are expected to deliver differentiated honors instruction and standard instruction simultaneously. This situation is untenable for both staff and students. Since much of the communication about our district is focused on numbers like enrollment, graduation rate, and test scores, I have a few more for you. 78. There are 78 7th graders at Garfield. 78 scholars are being denied an education at Garfield School. 0. 0 is the number of times parents and families were contacted by school leadership about the lack of instruction in these core subjects. I ask you, what is the number of students who should be denied an education in our district? Who's going to help them? Just one sentence. These are our kids, our schools, our communities, and our responsibility. And I've included a packet of documentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Rosa Cruz, followed by Lisa Riley. Rosa Cruz. Lisa Riley, followed by Victoria Stansberry. Lisa Riley. Victoria Stansberry, followed by Don Freeman. All right, Mr. Freeman.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Dr. Morgan, I am returning to the podium to essentially probe further relative to the question that I asked at the previous meeting in terms of what in 2024 will be done in the poorly academic performing schools to increase the academic performance in the major subjects of the many students who are poorly performing in these schools.
Thank you for that question. And as I shared before, and even as you saw tonight, we have a lot of work to do. Lots of gaps to cover, and also a lot of work that we need to do to really make sure all of our students are receiving that high quality curriculum. The first work we're going to do is continue to really make sure we're monitoring the data that we need to have. We're also in the process now of doing a bit of a curriculum audit to find out what academic programs are in all of our schools, and then also really looking at the training and support that we have for all of our educators. That is the work that we're looking to uncover to really create the strategies that will move our path forward. But even once we uncover some of the challenges, we will then have to put in the work and the strategy. So continue to ask us that question, continue to hold us accountable. We'll continue to share with you in terms of where our progress is, but we're in the process of building a lot of the work that we'll have to do collectively as a system to improve our academic performance. So I thank you for holding us accountable to that.
Thank you for your response to my question as well.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Next and final commenter, Charles E. Hoven.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question has to do with the 5-year plan that was submitted by Kevin Stockdale last month. And I noticed that there is only 0.5% growth in the property tax revenue per year projected. And I know that in past reports, sometimes we had some of the tax abatement data, and I'd like to see that for the past 15 years, a year by year and a cumulative total, so we can see if this tax abatement program were ended, how much increase will we be occurring each year. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in new real estate going up now, and the Cleveland schools are receiving nothing from that. And I know in the past the Cleveland Teachers Union, it was a couple decades ago, but they tried to end that program, and the development corporations succeeded in getting their people out and stopping that. But I think now, with the way the development corporations are blatantly pushing development and abatements, and the administration of the city and the council, that residents may feel much differently, especially concerning the projections of deficit that was presented last month. It's just incredibly immoral to continue this program. And I think Professor Joanna Ganning at the Urban College at Cleveland State just did an article yesterday in Cranes that says that these kind of incentives don't work to increase population. And I think the data bears it out that we're losing population because we're not providing services and we're not putting the resources into our schools. And so we need to change that, and maybe the teachers union would want to take this on again, considering that a lot of staff cuts, or if we can't get another levy, we need additional revenue. But I'd mostly like to see what it would be if all these properties are going up, we're paying taxes to the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, right, that concludes our public comment, our public participation portion of the meeting. Next, the board will consider the adoption of 9 resolutions in the areas of Board of Education, Finance, and Talent. The board discussed each of these resolutions at our December 5th board work session. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.01, authorizing a professional services agreement between the Council of the Great City Schools and the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District.
So moved.
Thank you. With this resolution, the board will be entering into a professional services agreement with the Council of the Great City Schools. Under this agreement, the CGCS Governance Services staff will be working with the Board of Education over the next 2 years on leadership training and support, professional development, facilitating board discussions on the school district's long-term vision and strategic plan, and other board governance supports, with a focus on training and adapting the board to look through a lens of student outcomes-focused governance as we serve in this body. With our school district now in a time of transition with a new chief executive officer, new board leadership, and a number of new board members, our board and school district would benefit from this type of governance training and support. Our school district has long been an active member of the Council of the Great City Schools, and the board had the opportunity to work with their governing services staff during our most recent board retreat in September. Under the terms of this agreement, the CGCS base fee of $60,000 would be reduced by $20,000 if the Board of Education unanimously votes to adopt this resolution. I also want to note that when it comes to board governance and additional board service agreements, our office looks to get outside funding outside of the school district's budget so that it does not impact the school district's budget when we entertain new ideas like this. And so the board office did apply for grant support from the Cleveland Foundation and the Gunn Foundation, and I'm pleased to share with my fellow board members today that we were approved for that funding should the board vote to approve this resolution. And again, with the discount that comes with voting unanimously, I of course urge my fellow board colleagues to support the resolution tonight. Are there any questions from board members? Mrs. Link.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to encourage my fellow board members to vote positively for this resolution. I want to thank the board leadership and Dr. Morgan for coordinating this again. You know, we had a great retreat in the fall, and we definitely need to build on this, so it's great to work together on it.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, any comments? All right. Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll on this motion?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBrun?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welchow?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Great. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted unanimously. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 8.01, adoption of the fiscal year 2025 alternative tax budget of the Cleveland Municipal School District. Oh, excuse me. These are 3 resolutions that I'll ask for a motion on. 8.02, authorizing the distribution of resources to partnering community schools pursuant to issue 68. 8.03, authorizing the acceptance of a gift and grants from United Healthcare, the Cleveland Foundation, and the George Gunn Foundation, and authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and conditions of the gift and grants, and 8.04, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to enter into contracts for the procurement of stop-loss insurance for the period January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $5,304,104 per year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. These are the finance resolutions that the board discussed at our December 5th work session. Dr. Morgan, could we just have a brief re-explanation of these resolutions?
Yes. Resolution 8.01 is a routine annual resolution whereby the board will be adopting fiscal year 2025 alternative tax budget to be filed with the county, and which the county then uses to determine the 2024 property tax bills. The county budget office and fiscal office will review CMSD's request and make final determination of tax rates, and then the board will be asked in March or April 2024 to approve the final rates. The fiscal year 2025 alternative tax budget recommends 84.3 mils. Resolution 8.02 authorizes the distribution of resources to partnering community schools pursuant to Issue 68 tax levy approved by the voters in 2020. This levy provided that our district distributes 1.5 mils of the Issue 68 levy dollars to our partnering community or charter schools. There's a routine semi-annual resolution whereby the board authorizes the distribution to those partnering community schools for the next 6 months from local property taxes received from January 1 through January 30, to June 30th, 2024. With Resolution 8.03, the board will be accepting the following gifts and grants, authorizing the CEO to spend the gifts and grants within accordance to the terms and conditions of the grants. The first one is from United Healthcare, a gift in the amount of $20,000 to support the CEO's office. From the Cleveland Foundation, a grant in the amount of $441,901 to support continued implementation of the CMSD Equity and Me Learning Series. And from the George Gunn Foundation, a grant in the amount of $36,000 to support the entry of 6 CMSD teams in the First District All-Girls First Robotics Competition. Resolution 8.04 is the annual renewal of the stop-loss insurance related to the district's employee, medical, and prescription insurance. Our talent and HR officer, Stephen Christian, gave the board a detailed presentation of this resolution at our December 5th work session. You can see the slide presentation included in those materials with more details on the stop-loss agreement.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBrun?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Streetar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welchow?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolutions are adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt 4 resolutions. 9.01, authorizing the employment of teaching, non-teaching, and school-based administrative staff. 9.02, authorizing the reclassification of employees. 9.03, authorizing the retirements, resignations, and other separations of employees. 9.04, authorizing the issuance of limited contracts for differential positions and the payment of additional earned compensation to employees. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. These are the talent resolutions that the board discussed at our December 5th work session. Dr. Morgan, could we please have a brief explanation?
Yes. These 4 resolutions are our routine monthly talent resolutions. Resolution 9.01, authorizing the hiring of staff. 9.02, authorizing the reclassification of staff. 9.03, accepts the resignations, retirements, and other separations of staff. And 9.04, authorizes contracts for differential positions and additional earned compensation. More detailed about each resolution, including the employee names and positions, is included in the exhibits to each resolution.
Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBrun?
Yes.
Dr. Streetar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welchow?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. These resolutions are adopted. This concludes the board's consideration of resolutions for this evening. Under old business tonight, this evening we have 3 proposed resolutions expressing the board's intent to renew sponsorships agreements with 3 community charter schools, Citizens Leadership Academy East, Near West Intergenerational School, and Village Preparatory School Cliffs. The board appreciated receiving a detailed presentation on these resolutions from CMSD's Executive Director of Charter Schools, Matt Rado, and a report from each of the principals of these charter schools. However, the board did have a number of questions concerning the data that was shared in making their recommendation, staff making their recommendation for renewal to the board. Since the deadline for the board to adopt these resolutions is January 15th, and since we only had a week between the work session and the business meeting this month, we wanted to take some additional time to review this data, so the board will not be voting on these resolutions this evening as originally planned, but will instead defer that vote until our next board meeting, which is the January 9th board work session. Is there any comment from board members on that? All right. Dr. Morgan, any additional comment?
Just want to thank the board for not only the support and the questions that they provide us as we are holding ourselves accountable, but also the work that we're doing for our all of our partners as we serve all of our students. Our students are not just the students that attend district managed schools, but also our charter partners as well. So appreciate the additional time that you're providing and the questions that you have.
Thank you. Is there any other old business? Is there any new business? All right, the next regular board meeting will be the 2024 board organization meeting on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at Garrett Morgan High School. The chair will now entertain a motion that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of considering the employment and appointment of public employees and officials, preparing for negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and conferring with attorneys concerning disputes involving the Board of Education that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBron?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welchow?
Yes.
Motion passed with 8 votes.
Thank you. The motion passes. The board will now move into executive session, and following executive session, the board will return to this room to briefly conduct some further business.
You are the class that brought back-to-back state championships to Glenville High School.
Celebration for Cleveland Reads. We are celebrating the fact that as the mayor challenged us to get 1 million books read and 10 million minutes read, we are here to give the city of Cleveland its answer.
The idea of bringing enjoyment to reading is really critical, and you bring enjoyment when you actually celebrate the things that you've accomplished. It's important for our children when they've been doing their own thing to see how their part of what they've been doing is a part of a much larger whole. And it's important for them to see the entire city coming out and actually celebrating that as well.
Of course, we teach reading every day in classrooms, and our teachers are working tirelessly very hard to make sure we close the literacy gap. But you need a village, you need a community to come alongside the school system to make sure that we're providing the extra hours, we're doing the remediation that takes place outside of the hours of the classroom. And so this is awesome.
Reading is fun, it's exciting. For me as a kid growing up in the Southeast Side, it opened up a lot of doors of opportunity for me, and I hope our young people see the excitement and the importance of reading by the work of this campaign.
We are showing the nation that Cleveland supports our children, and Cleveland's going to fight for literacy every single day. So congratulations, everybody. But the fight is just beginning. Let's keep pushing for reading all across the city. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Now, the moment you all have been waiting for, the moment you all have been waiting for, here are our results. Drum roll. Together, we read 1,476,250.
Without literacy and strong reading skills, our students, their families, they struggle. And when we have strong readers, they become leaders, and we are able to see our city rise with improvements in literacy. So CTU has been one of the main partners for the Cleveland Reads event, in addition to the Cleveland Public Library, the City of Cleveland, and of course the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. AFT has supported this initiative by working with us to donate books. And so far, for just this year, AFT donated about 70,000 books that we've distributed.
So what you see here today is just a bundle of joy, but underlying it is an amazing purpose, which is about reading and literacy and inculcating the joy of reading and literacy for young people and their families in Cleveland. And with that, with the confidence of reading, first joy of reading and then confidence of reading, what you see is opportunity.
So we just launched our core measures, our 5-year core measures, of which we're both looking at the achievement of our scholars, and we're looking for proficiency in ELA at both the elementary levels and the high school levels. And then also we're measuring growth of our schools in both ELA and math. And so, of course, that's measured not only on how students are reading, the fluency, comprehension, but also how our students are critically thinking. So if you can't read, or if you're struggling with reading at the most fundamental levels, we're going to have struggles in all of the other measures we're looking at. And so it is so fundamental that we continue to read, we continue to have partnerships like this that will allow our schools and our district to grow.
Cleveland reads, baby.
How's it feel to be back-to-back state champs? I wanted to make sure we had a special celebration here at City Hall after you guys did your amazing job last Saturday. Let's show some love for Ted Gidd. I'm a little biased. I think he's the best high school football coach in the country, by the way.
You're the class that actually brought Coach Ginn, as well as the coaches, to his double-digit victory of state championships. He has 8 track, and now that you got the back-to-back, you have a total of 10 state championships.
I figured that we were going to win like that because we have a very good offense. We have our starting running back, Deshaunte Jones, our senior wide receiver, Demarion Whitten. Those 2 guys are a 1-2 punch. And then our defense, we're a very strong defense.
Last year, I gave Coach Ginn my first ever key to the city, the first pickleball championship. Now, this is a proclamation on behalf of the entire city of Cleveland, honoring the Glenville Tar Brothers for completing a heroic task of becoming the first ever football team in our great state to win back-to-back state championships. Congratulations. But I'm just so proud of each of you. To be back-to-back state champions is an accomplishment.
I'm standing here as Division 4, back-to-back state champions. I think we deserve a round of applause. It's for this city, this school district, and we're going to continue to fight to prove that we're the winners.
They worked hard, and it's not just that they were champions, it is the way that they have worked hard to get to this point. So I'm so proud. We're back-to-back state champions. Really proud of them.
Welcome to Lake Center. I'm happy to be. I'm parked up right here waiting on you. Okay, let's go. Grace. All right, driver. Good morning, Grace. How's it going?
It's going. We're running late, but we don't do this.
Yeah, so let's get it.
So, Grace, how long have you been a bus driver for with us?
I started originally in 1999.
1999.
And I got laid off in 2004 with the big layoff.
Okay.
And I came back in 2019. Because as you see, we're up and out early, no matter what the weather.
That's right. Postman, and yeah, we appreciate that. Like, yeah, our scholars couldn't get to school without you. So from your perspective, tell me, what are we getting right with transportation, and then what are we getting wrong?
How about we start with the wrong?
Okay, yep, I'm here for it, and you can be honest.
We need monitors on these buses to assist us with these children.
Okay.
We're in a different age and a different time, and the children are different. We need help. We wear a lot of hats as bus drivers.
Yeah.
We're more than just bus drivers. And we can't see everything that goes on these buses.
Yeah.
And we need help. We need help. The cameras are fine, but another actual body there to assist would make things a lot better. The thing is, if a children's back there eating a supper and I go over a bump and it gets lodged in the door, how am I going to know that?
Yeah, you're right.
Where am I supposed to pull over at and save this child?
Yep.
You know, which also comes into play for people having CPR training as well.
Yep.
But how can you expect a driver to do that?
Oh yeah, what else?
I like the fact that edgy law, where the parents can track the buses.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing.
Good morning, Majesty. Do you know who I am? You're like, no. I'm Dr. Morgan. I'm your superintendent, your CEO. From your perspective, what do you like about the bus? And then tell me, what are some things that can change?
How about the bus? The kids can sit and enjoy the ride.
So you love to just sit and enjoy the ride. Yeah. What do you not like? Oh, sometimes that happens, yeah. Is it because sometimes students are not acting right? No, that's right.
And that's another issue. I think we should know what the specifics are about a student.
Yeah.
We need to know this because we're driving them. I need to know who's behind me.
Exactly.
And they don't always give us that information.
Do you guys have access to the IEP?
No, we should.
We started doing, in Indianapolis, we had started doing that, giving some of our bus drivers access to the IEP because some students got escalated by, like, sometimes noise.
People around.
And or if you say something firm to them. And if a bus driver, if you don't know that, you can be escalating this.
We don't know what we're doing.
Exactly.
So we're saying the same thing. We need to know who we are driving because you got to remember, I got to look forward. I can't keep looking in this mirror every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I have an accident, guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame me. I want to keep me safe. Yeah, I want to keep me safe because I got a family that wants me to come home.
That's right.
But I also want to keep these children safe as well. And that's the reward and the goal. All in one.
All right. So yeah, you guys walk me through the daily routine and what you guys do. So, is this also the route you ride in the morning as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like the opposite way.
The opposite way. And same thing for you? The route, okay. What neighborhoods are you guys in?
I live in the Hub Park area.
And then what about you?
I live in Euclid.
I live in Euclid. Okay. Oh man, so commute for RTA, what is that about? Commute time. Is it about 30 minutes to get?
It's like an hour.
An hour, okay. An hour. And then what about for you?
About 45 minutes.
45 minutes, okay. Does RTA, how does the bus usually run on time for you guys? Okay.
Pretty
It's good. It's good. So one of the things I'm trying to find out, and I've been asking students, so it's two questions. What is something great about riding the bus to get you to school, this bus? And then what is a challenge that you have?
It's really convenient because it runs all often. Even if I'm late to school, I can still take the bus. I don't have to worry about having to bother my mom and give me a ride.
Another quick question for you guys. Has there ever been anything challenging that's happened, either that you've witnessed on the bus or that's happened to you?
One of my friends was telling me about a time where she thought she was getting followed off the bus, and she was like really scared, so she ended up FaceTiming me to make sure that nothing was happening. And that was pretty much like the only thing that happened.
When that happened, did she feel like she could report it to the school, or that there was somebody at the district that could support her with that?
No, because she was already back on her side of town. She also left.
Wow. I think this is where it ends. I truly appreciate you guys showing me this route. You know, and we've been along this journey, so I always appreciate you.
How does that feel, knowing that you can go to school and don't have to worry about money?
I'm just happy for it. Like, I'm thankful.
I feel like that, like attending the University of Pennsylvania for free is like a total burden taken off my shoulders.
I will be attending U Chicago in fall of 2024. I will be attending Princeton University in the fall.
What is the QuestBridge organization, and how do they help students, and who do they pick to get full rides to the university of their choice? Yeah, you can.
So boom. With these two, my best friends, knew them since 9th grade. I had no doubt they was gonna get in. The process was pretty simple. We helped each other all the way through. We helped each other a lot. CSS profile, everything. So when one of us got it, I'm pretty sure we all knew each other got it. So it was really nice though. QuestBridge is basically a nonprofit organization seeking to basically bridge the generational gap between low-income students and high-quality education, specifically at college.
So what was so grueling about the process?
Oh, I think I could speak to that. There are so many different steps and unique circumstances with every person, and you have to write so many essays because for every college you rank, they have their own specific supplemental essays. So for instance, my top 3 were Princeton, Yale, and Brown. Within those 3 different colleges, I had to write at least 5 essays for every college, and then those essays themselves were 300 words, 250 words, 550 words. So not only was there the essay writing half, but then there was the financial half. Money gets very complicated very easily. And so in these colleges, they're looking to give you a full ride. They want to make sure that they're giving the money to the right people.
And then you have to write a biographical essay explaining about how, like, where did you grow up, where did you come from? Because that's what QuestBridge is about. It's about originality. They ask you what makes you so unique and what differentiates you from everyone else. Like, for example, when I applied, I explained about how my Latino heritage was very important to me with my parents, and they're super proud of me, and I'm super grateful that I have them with me because they had dreams of attending college in Guatemala, but since they came from low income, they felt like they couldn't attend. And so that's why they came to America in the first place, to give me and my sister better opportunities.
So I wrote my essay actually about a loaf of bread and how growing up I learned to make a wide variety of meals to sort of sustain myself because of that loaf of bread. And I really used it to show off my adaptability and how I found that I can succeed in a lot of different situations, even with the smallest amount of resources possible.
I have to ask, how many different ways can you make a meal out of a loaf of bread?
Oh, well, let me tell you, you got the grilled cheese, you got the peanut butter jelly sandwich, you got the normal sandwich. Sometimes if you don't got jelly, you can make a peanut butter sandwich. If you don't got bread, you can make toast. There are just so many different things.
Yeah, so talk to me about your journey and how you got to this point.
I discovered this through my epistemology, basically how you know where you come from. It started, just give a brief overview, it's like my mother, because it's always been me and my mother growing up with life. She always told me, in order to get what you want, you got to do what you get, if that makes sense. It means like always work hard for what you want. So only child, but always worked hard my whole life. So I always wanted to know more in life. Whether it's know more languages, know more things about things, travel, just know, because I believe like people who's like very knowledgeable can really overcome struggles or just help people. So in doing so, I learned different languages. My Spanish teacher. No sé mucho español. Muchas gracias.
De nada.
I made powerful friends. I became the person that people go to I became very understanding, and I just became really calming, if that makes sense.
I created this program called Latino Leaders Cleveland, where it aims to empower Latinos who don't have many resources and want to become, pursue careers in public advocacy or law, and help them spread awareness about Latino culture.
It's just an honor. I really think that this is a relief, and now it's my job to sort of pass on the knowledge and skills that I've gained to younger generations, because I have so many people who are underclassmen, my siblings, who I want to serve as an amazing example to show that like you can do this too. You can be a change breaker, you can be a trailblazer, and it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you do, as long as you dedicate yourself to a goal and you have the resources and you learn the skills that it needs, then you'll be fine. So I really feel like with this relief that I don't have to worry about anything, I want to take that time, that extra free time I have now that I'm not writing essays, to really pass that knowledge on to some of my underclassmen peers and my siblings who have the same goals as I do.
So much excitement.
It felt great though.
We accomplished it back to back.
They wanted it, they got it. 2 feet, baby. Hiya.
The Glenville High School football team made history again in Canton on Saturday, becoming back-to-back state champs.
The 2023 Division IV State Championship Trophy. Congratulations.
We work so hard for this whole team. Everybody puts in work. Everybody does their job, plays their role. I don't know, we just deserve it. We work so hard for this.
Tomlinson into the end zone from 16 yards out.
Our kids showed up, for the championship.
DeShante, a running back, scored a touchdown in the third quarter that contributed to the Tar Blooders' 38-3 victory against the Kettering Archbishop Alter Knights. He says this win meant more to him than last year's championship title.
Touchdown.
I was a COVID kid. I didn't have a 9th grade year. I was overlooked my 10th grade year. I was overlooked my 11th grade year. And my senior year, people started to look at me more, and I had something to prove to show them that who I really was and who I really was about and what I really was about.
While it may be Victory Monday for these two-time football state champs, it was business as usual here at Ginn Academy.
Welcome back to the state champions.
Man, it felt great. Just waking up, putting a suit on, putting a shirt and tie on, just felt great. Just coming in, getting congratulated. It's different. People really needed to get congratulated for our game and make it put a smile on people's face.
It feels great getting recognition from teachers, students, everybody, security guards. It's huge. I'm just so happy. This team deserved it. We worked so hard for this.
Head coach Ted Ginn Sr. says he is proud of his players, and with this second championship win, a weight has been lifted.
The weight is that it's over, and we've proven that we can achieve at the highest level, and that give our kids some respect, give our community some respect, give our school district some respect.
And for these two seniors, this championship game was bittersweet.
So it was huge. This is kind of bittersweet because you don't want to leave the guys you came in here with, but we did it. We ended it the right way. So.
But for this team, the celebration will continue with an appearance on Fox 8 Tuesday morning and lunch with Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb.
You are the class that brought back-to-back state championships to Glenville High School.
Celebration for Cleveland Reads. We are celebrating the fact that as the mayor challenged us to get 1 million books read and 10 million minutes read, we are here to give the city of Cleveland its answer.
The idea of bringing enjoyment to reading is really critical, and you bring enjoyment when you actually celebrate the things that you've accomplished. It's important for our children when they've been doing their own thing to see how their part of what they've been doing is a part of a much larger whole, And it's important for them to see the entire city coming out and actually celebrating that as well.
Of course, we teach reading every day in classrooms, and our teachers are working tirelessly very hard to make sure we close the literacy gap. But you need a village, you need a community to come alongside the school system to make sure that we're providing the extra hours, we're doing the remediation that takes place outside of the hours of the classroom. And so this is awesome.
Reading is fun, it's exciting. For me as a kid growing up in the Southeast Side, it opened up a lot of doors of opportunity for me, and I hope our young people see the excitement and the importance of reading by the work of this campaign.
We are showing the nation that Cleveland supports our children, and Cleveland's gonna fight for literacy every single day. So congratulations, everybody, but the fight is just beginning. Let's keep pushing for reading all across the city. Thanks so much, I appreciate it.
Now, the moment you all have been waiting for. The moment you all have been waiting for. Here are our results. Drum roll. Together, we read 1,476,250.
Without literacy and strong reading skills, our students, their families, they struggle. And when we have strong readers, they become leaders, and we are able to see our city rise with improvements in literacy. So CTU has been one of the main partners for the Cleveland Reads event, in addition to the Cleveland Public Library, the City of Cleveland, and of course the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. AFT has supported this initiative by working with us to donate books, and so far for just this year, AFT donated about 70,000 books that we've distributed.
So what you see here today is just a bundle of joy, but underlying it is an amazing purpose, which is about reading and literacy and inculcating the joy of reading and literacy for young people and their families in Cleveland. And with that, with the confidence of reading, first joy of reading and then confidence of reading, what you see is opportunity.
So we just launched our core measures, our 5-year core measures, of which we're both looking at the achievement of our scholars, and we're looking for proficiency in ELA at both the elementary levels and the high school levels. And then also we're measuring growth of our schools in both ELA and math. And so, of course, that's measured not only on how students are reading, the fluency, comprehension, but also how our students are critically thinking. So if you can't read, or if you're struggling with reading at the most fundamental levels, we're going to have struggles in all of the other measures we're looking at. And so it is so fundamental that we continue to read, we continue to have partnerships like this that will allow our schools and our district to grow.
Cleveland Reads, baby.
How's it feel to be back-to-back state champs? I wanted to make sure we had a special celebration here at City Hall after you guys did your amazing job last Saturday. Let's show some love for Ted Ginn. I'm a little biased. I think he's the best high school football coach in the country, by the way.
You're the class that actually brought Coach Ginn, as well as the coaches, to his double-digit victory of state championships. He has 8 track, and now that he got the back-to-back, you have a total of 10 state championships.
I figured that we were going to win like that because we have a very good offense. We have our starting running back, Jones, our senior wide receiver, Demarion Whitten. Those 2 guys are a 1-2 punch. And then our defense, we're a very strong defense.
Last year, I gave Coach Ginn my first ever key to the city.
has Division 4 back-to-back state champions. I think we deserve a round of applause. It's for this city, this school district, and we're going to continue to fight to prove that we're the greatest.
They worked hard, and it's not just that they were champions, it is the way that they have worked hard to get to this point. So I'm so proud. We're back-to-back state champions. Really proud of them.
Welcome to Lake Center. I'm happy to be. I'm parked up right here waiting on you. Okay, let's go. Grace. All right, driver. Good morning, Grace. How's it going?
It's going. We're running late, but we don't do this.
Yeah, so let's get it. So, Grace, how long have you been a bus driver for with us?
I started originally in 1999.
1999.
And I got laid off in 2004 with the big layoff.
Okay.
And I came back in 2019. As you see, we're up and out early, no matter what the weather.
That's right, Postman, and yeah, we appreciate that. Like, yeah, our scholars couldn't get to school without you. So, from your perspective, tell me, what are we getting right with transportation, and then what are we getting wrong?
How about we start with the wrong?
Okay, yep, I'm here for it, and you can be honest.
We need monitors on these buses to assist us with these children.
Okay.
We're in a different age and a different time, and the children are different. We need help. We wear a lot of hats as bus drivers.
Yeah.
We're more than just bus drivers. And we can't see everything that goes on these buses.
Yeah.
And we need help. We need help. The cameras are fine, but another actual body there to assist would make things a lot better. The thing is, if a children's back there eating a supper and I go over a bump and it gets lodged in their door, how am I going to know that?
Yeah, you're right.
Where am I supposed to pull over at and save this child?
Yep.
You know, which also comes into play for people having CPR training as well.
Yep.
But how can you expect a driver to do that?
Oh yeah, what else?
I like the fact that EDU law, where the parents can track the buses.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing.
Good morning, Majesty. Do you know who I am? You're like, no. I'm Dr. Morgan. I'm your superintendent, your CEO. From your perspective, what do you like about the bus? And then tell me, what are some things that can change?
How about the bus? The teachers can sit and enjoy the ride.
So you love to just sit and enjoy the ride. Yeah. What do you not like? Oh, sometimes that happens, yeah. Is it because sometimes students are not acting right? No, that's right.
And that's another issue. I think we should know what the specifics are about a student.
Yeah.
We need to know this because we're driving them. I need to know who's behind me.
Exactly.
And they don't always give us that information.
Do you guys have access to the IEP?
No, and we should.
We started doing, in Indianapolis, we had started doing that, giving some of our bus drivers access to the IEP because some students got escalated by, like, sometimes
noise.
somebody, noise.
People around.
Or if you say something firm to them. And if a bus driver, if you don't know that, you can be escalating this.
We don't know what we're doing.
Exactly.
So we're saying the same thing. We need to know who we are driving because you got to remember, I got to look forward. I can't keep looking in this mirror every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I have an accident, guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame me. I want to keep me safe. Yeah, I want to keep me safe because I got a family that wants me to come home.
That's right.
But I also want to keep these children safe as well. And that's the reward and the goal. All in one.
All right. So you guys walk me through the daily routine and what you guys do. So
Is this also the route you ride in the morning as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like the opposite way.
The opposite way. And same thing for you? The route, okay. What neighborhoods are you guys in?
I live in the Hub Park area.
And then what about you?
I live in Euclid.
I
live in Euclid.
Euclid, okay. Oh man, so commute for RTA, what is that about? Commute time, is it about 30 minutes to get?
It's like an hour.
An hour, okay. An hour. And then what about for you?
About 45 minutes.
45 minutes, okay. Does RTA, how does the bus? Does the bus usually run on time for you guys? Okay.
Pretty
It's good. It's good. So one of the things I'm trying to find out, and I've been asking students, so it's two questions. What is something great about riding the bus to get you to school, this bus? And then what is a challenge that you have?
It's really convenient because it runs all even if I'm late to school, I can still catch the bus. I don't have to worry about having to bother my mom and keep me around.
Another quick question for you guys. Has there ever been anything challenging that's happened, either that you've witnessed on the bus or that's happened to you?
One of my friends was telling me about a time where she thought she was getting followed off the bus. And she was like really scared, so she ended up FaceTiming me to make sure that nothing was happening. And that was pretty much like the only thing that happened.
When that happened, did she feel like she could report it to the school, or that there was somebody at the district that could support her with that?
No, because she was already back on her side of town. She also
Wow. I think this is where it ends. I truly appreciate you guys showing me this route. You know, and we've been along this journey, so I always appreciate you.
How does that feel, knowing that you can go to school and don't have to worry about money?
I'm just happy for it. Like, I'm thankful.
I feel like that, like attending University of Pennsylvania for free is like a total burden taken off my shoulders.
I will be attending U Chicago in fall of 2024.
I will be attending Princeton University in the fall.
What is the QuestBridge organization, and how do they help students, and who do they pick to get full rides to the university of their choice? Yeah, you can.
So boom, with these two, my best friends, knew them since 9th grade. I had no doubt they was gonna get in. The process was pretty simple. We helped each other all the way through. We helped each other a lot. CSS profile, everything. So when one of us got it, I'm pretty sure we all knew each other got it. So it was really nice though.
QuestBridge is basically a nonprofit organization seeking to basically bridge the generational gap between low-income students and high-quality education, specifically at college.
So what was so grueling about the process?
Oh, I think I can speak to that. There are so many different steps and unique circumstances with every person, and you have to write so many essays because for every college you rank, they have their own specific supplemental essays. So for instance, my top 3 were Princeton, Yale, and Brown. Within those 3 different colleges, I had to write at least 5 essays for every college, and then those essays themselves were 300 words, 250 words, 550 words. So not only was there the essay writing half, but then there was the financial half. Money gets very complicated very easily. And so in these colleges, they're looking to give you a full ride. They want to make sure that they're giving the money to the right people.
And then you have to write a biographical essay explaining about how, like, where did you grow up, where did you come from? Because that's what QuestBridge is about. It's about originality. They ask you what makes you so unique and what differentiates you from everyone else. Like, for example, when I applied, I explained about how my Latino heritage was very important to me with my parents, and they're super proud of me, and I'm super grateful that I have them with me because they had dreams of attending college in Guatemala, but since they came from low income, they felt like they couldn't attend. And so that's why they came to America in the first place, to give me and my sister better opportunities.
So I wrote my essay actually about a loaf of bread and how growing up I learned to make a wide variety of meals to sort of sustain myself because of that loaf of bread. And I really used it to show off my adaptability and how I found that I can succeed in a lot of different situations, even with the smallest amount of resources possible.
I have to ask, how many different ways can you make a meal out of a loaf of bread?
Oh, well, let me tell you, you got the grilled cheese, you got the peanut butter jelly sandwich, you got the normal sandwich. Sometimes if you don't got jelly, you can make a peanut butter sandwich. If you don't got bread, you can make toast. There are just so many different things.
Yeah, so talk to me about your journey and how you got to this point?
I discovered this through my epistemology, basically how you know where you come from. It started, just give a brief overview, it's like my mother, because it's always been me and my mother growing up with life. She always told me, you know, in order to get what you want, you got to do what you get, if that makes sense. It means like always work hard for what you want. So only child will always work.
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welchow?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. Is there any other new business? As announced earlier, the next regular board meeting will be the 2024 Board Organization/Combination Work Session on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at Garrett Morgan High School. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn this board business meeting.
So moved. Second.
Hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, happy holidays, and happy new year. See you next year. I love saying that.